Live pictures from Los Angeles as the March for Our Lives rally there gets underway, 10:45 a.m. Pacific. Obviously, the biggest of the rallies is here in Washington, D.C. They call it the March for Our Lives. You could call it a pro-gun control rally. And one of the main speakers, the pretty much largest and most vocal spokesman out of the Parkland tragedy, has been a guy named David Hogg, who came out and spoke very passionately, much more, though, than about gun control, about the 2018 elections and making the gun issue a seminal point in the 2018 election, putting politicians, he said, on notice. Here for further discussion, founder, executive director of Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk. You might recognize him from his conversation with the president a couple of days ago. You noted, and we can tell from these pictures and from the interviews, there is a lot of anger in this crowd. There is a lot of enthusiasm in this crowd. Do they have a cohesive message yet? Maybe, maybe not. But should Republicans be worried that these folks are going to come out and vote in a way that could definitely change 2018?
Yes, I mean, the energy is palatable, and I walked through the crowd. I had some very interesting discussions, but there's a genuine grassroots anger towards Republicans right now. I don't think it's warranted in the slightest. It's been building up over the last 14 to 16 months, ever since the inauguration of Donald Trump. And look, Republicans in Congress have to get their act together. I think the tax cut was great, but there's something to be said for this. I mean, that's hundreds of thousands of people. And I had conversations with a lot of them, and they really have no idea what they're talking about, especially with guns. Kind of feel sorry for some of them without putting them on the spot. But they seem to be very, very misguided. But there's emotion, and emotion drives politics.
It certainly did in 2016.
Without a doubt.
And Liz and I were talking about this. It brings up a lot of important questions. Is where is the Republican messaging on this? You have a White House statement about Fix NICS being signed, the Stop School Violence Act being signed, President Trump rolling back the Obama administration's decision on bump stocks, yet not really getting a lot of credit for that.
Well, I mean, I think we had talked about the fact that this march was going to take place, and one of the things that Peter Doocy had mentioned was that initially it felt like it was more organic, that there was some students getting together after the Valentine's Day event in Parkland, Florida, and then now it's almost as if it's a celebrity movement. It's Hollywood feel, and that's what I wanted to ask you about.
So I definitely feel a lot of that. It's a blend of all these different forces. A lot of students were being bussed in, which is to be without said, and you could tell by the T-shirts and the big coach buses that are in. I was asking, like, who's paying for this, first of all? I mean, it is highly organized. 10
or 12 coach buses coming in with police escorts as I was driving in.
Here's the funny thing. First of all, they're using armed guards for this whole thing, which I think is one of the greatest ironies of a gun control march. But the second point that I do want to make with this is that there's a lot of emotion and a lot of feeling. There's very little thinking going on. So let's just look in the last week. We have a documented example of an armed guard preventing a potential mass shooting in Maryland. We have an example of that. Which it could have been another Columbine, Sandy Hook, or Virginia Tech, but a hero, an armed resource officer, stood up and did the right thing. We will not hear that on the stage today.
Well, and interestingly enough, I've heard at least some of our reporters talk about a number of the teachers who are out here, big teacher groups who've come out, and they said they're against more armed teachers or arming teachers in schools. Charlie, appreciate your thoughts.
Thank you.
Thanks.